On my left here, beyond Sarah, is Hannah Owens, who is our Warwickshire Young Poet Laureate for this year. And Hannah's been so for a few months now, haven't you? But unfortunately, we haven't actually managed to fit into her very busy diary to get her here before now. So it's lovely to have her here. And she's going to, I hope you'll beg our indulgence, she's going to recite a couple of poems for us. Normally she would be mobile, but because we are fixed to these microphones, she is going to do it from here. So Hannah, can I welcome you to Warwickshire, to the County Council, congratulate you on your achievement and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. The first poem I wanted to read today was a poem that looks about a responsibility for our world. I think there's a tendency to idolise what we say to other people, and I wrote this poem imagining if we were to write home, tell about what's happening, what would we say? Write home that the miles of dry stone walls are libraries, stacked books on return shelves in a sacred silence, and loose rubble tomes is waiting for the farmer librarian to come. Write home, a grey silk sewn through the heart-splintered wilderness, rough bath-towel pasture, grey veins of rivers as silver, and coal red and black. A greying cartographer mapped into his bed. Write home, you saw squirrels searching recycling bins and ducks sleeping on picnic benches, not the sun that sat on the horizon at midnight, and the purple lights you saw in the pond. Write home, that the smoking men outside their cars are Beltex sheep with a face of squash daisies, thick piles of coats left by the door, and mist rising from a riverbed. A honeyed moon rising above us all, when the crows cry, "Write home, write home." Thank you. The second poem I wish to read, I have an interest in philosophy and religious studies, and it's something I wish to pursue at university. There's a parable written by Anthony Flew, and for those who are unfamiliar, it's set around two people, a skeptic and a believer, and they decide to see, almost compete, if a patch of ground they found in the middle of a forest is tended by a gardener, who Flew means to represent God. Each set traps and fences and electric bells, and they want to see if one night a gardener will come to visit, but each night they find it does not. And so the believer, in response to this, he says that, well, the gardener must be invisible, can walk through walls, and does not set off bells. But Flew asks, if there is this difference, what is the difference between a gardener, or indeed a God, who is defined into nothing, or no God at all? I wrote this poem, and hopefully to sort of explore this a little bit in my own terms. Invisible gardens. Unfurling patch of bracken where skeptic and believer stood. Peering through murk and mirage, they wonder who has placed a stake in its depths. Ask, which is the greater fool, to ask the silence if it loves, or stare at everything that could be and declare it void? Of 1,000 qualifications, who picks between the dandelions and the lilies? As day shatters, scrubbing soil from our fingertips as hard as we wash away blood, I don't know it, though I hope we are all invisible gardeners, tending the small plant pots of the lives of the people we pass. Thank you. For Anthony Flew, he decided that it makes it seem like it's impossible for God to exist. But I think the part of this parable, and indeed what I've written in this poem, is that Flew writes the garden which he loves. In a way, I don't think it really matters who loves the garden, whether it's God or anything or nothing, but that he is saying there is life and it is to be loved. And if it is by nothing, then indeed ourselves, we have a responsibility to love everything beautiful and ugly about people and indeed our world. I'm not sure. It interests me. Final poem, perhaps on a slightly less philosophical note. I fancy something a bit more light. I've recently, as you said, busy as a student and finished exam season, and I'm sure as anyone who's used to working with papers, you accumulate an awful lot on your desk. My desk was probably stacked about this high, and this poem was kind of inspired by a mess my parents instructed me clean up. My desk as of a few days ago. At the moment, my desk has become a skyline of piled papers, turned skyscrapers and communication towers. Somewhere under a physics exam paper is my calculator, in an underground car park and buried in the underbelly of a city that rustles rather than blares. Pens and pencils lying gridlock below, streets and avenues set wide as flashcard and notepaper. And my neon highlighters monochromatically flash off, on and on into the night to instruct weary paper workers where to head. All fine until the first parent decided it was a mess. All fine until both parents decided it should be tidied away, and my dad is very insistent. All fine until my brother left my window open, and it snowed in the hallway for days after. On the bright side, however, the endless optimist, I found my calculator and my left earphone. Thank you very much.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Hannah. Really lovely. And I think all of us can reflect on one or two or more of your poems, and very thought-provoking. So can I thank you from all of us, and also wish you well in your year, in your studies, and in your future. Thank you very much for being here.